subject inside or anything, please let me know. How many times can we learn the parsha again over and over? Anyways, one of the things that we're going to study today, this week's parsha is called Parsha of Shelach. I'm sure that, again, some of us, maybe most of us, will know that this parsha talks about the concept that, Moshe Rabbeinu sent spies to the land of Israel. They were about to enter the land of Israel, and then people come to Moshe and say, you know what? You want to go spy out the land, because every land that you go into has, whatever. It's called like akmut. There's like crooked ways. We don't know how to get in there. We have to find out what's the best way to enter the land. So send some spies. They check out the land. We see how good it is. We bring back a report, and then obviously we go and conquer the land. So what happens is Moshe Rabbeinu, Moses actually chooses 12 people, and these were leaders. They were not just regular people. Rashi says they were tzaddikim, they were righteous people at the time that were appointed, at least. And then when they go to the land, they bring like such a negative report about the land of Israel. For example, in the beginning, actually, they say, "What, the fruits are fantastic. They're like these huge fruits in Israel." But they say, you know what, the land is not a good land. It's a polluted land. One of the stuff that they said is everywhere that we went, people were dying. They were busy burying people. That's one of the reports that they brought. And actually, Rashi says it was true. And the reason why God made it happen, they should be busy in being mourning for the death of their people, so they won't even notice the spies, but use it as a negative thing. To such an extent, when they came back, they said, you know what, there's no way that we can go and conquer land of Israel, because people that live in there, they're stronger than us. Anybody speaks Hebrew here a little bit? How do you translate mimenu? It could mean from us, but also means mimenu.
From us, yeah, that's
Besides that, there's another meaning too.
like against us.
No. How do you say from him?
You.
No, mimenu, from him. So mimenu has both meanings. They are stronger than us, they're stronger than him. So the rabbis explained, they were saying that these people in the land, they're even stronger than him, which means God. Even God can't save us. So could you imagine they brought such a report that I said even God cannot save us? It's not like it doesn't make sense at all. Why doesn't it make sense at all? Because when these guys were when they were in Egypt, so many miracles happened. Anyways, we're discussing that, when the spies went to the land of Israel, they brought a report that there's no way that even God can't conquer the land. Now, this is something that absolutely makes no sense, because these people saw God's miracles every single moment. On that day, the man came down, the food from heaven. They had these clouds surrounding them, protecting them. In Egypt, God actually was able to destroy, the entire Egyptian army. Suddenly, they're afraid that God is not strong enough to save them. So actually, we're going to discuss what the problem was. So there's the simple level, and then there's actually Kabbalistic point of view, and we're going to compare them both, and you see actually the great difference between the two explanations. You see, according to the simple explanation, the reason why they didn't want to go into the land and the spies brought evil report is because these guys were leaders. The Medrash says as soon as they would enter the land of Israel, then they would have new elections. They wouldn't stay leaders anymore. They would actually lose their posts. Now, these people didn't want to lose their post at all. They would rather stay. Let's go, guys. They would rather actually stay in the desert and stay leaders. Are you guys following? If they would stay in the desert, they would stay leaders. They go to Israel, there's going to be new elections. They won't be leaders. They say, we don't want to lose our post. We want to stay leaders. So they made up this whole lie story, according to the simple explanation. They made up this lie that the land is a polluted land and forget about it, even God can't save us. And people fell for it. But again, it shows like they were like not good people at all. But one thing, we learned a great lesson. We're going to see the Kabbalistic point of view very soon. We learn a very great lesson. As long as people are doing a project, we're doing something. As long as I take myself out, I'm looking at a concept. The concept has to be done. It's a correct thing to be done. Let's do it. It's going to be successful. The moment somebody is going to look at his own benefits in this project, what do I gain out of this? That's the beginning of destruction. Honestly, in anything you look at, let's imagine look at a synagogue. Let's bring the simplest example. A synagogue is supposed to be a place that people gather to pray. Actually, it's a place that is supposed to give service to the people, right? Whatever you need, spiritual needs, physical needs. Sometimes people need monetary help, whatever it is. We are here to do something to bring people closer to God. Imagine somebody that says, no, no, no. I want the thing to be done or run the way I want it. I don't care what the subject is. I don't care what the project is. The project has to be done the way I want it. So obviously that destroys the whole synagogue. That's when you lose members and people go other places or they actually get sick of the synagogue. I mean, again, I don't want to go into politics, but I'm sure you have seen that, synagogues start and people really love to help or any organization. Then after a while, we forget what the purpose is. Each one pulls the organization a different way. That's where the whole community goes away. This was the problem of the spies. In simple terms, they wanted to go to the land of Israel, but then it's, oh my gosh, once we go to the land, forget it. We're not going to be the leaders. I don't want to lose my post. I want to be a leader. So I'd rather stay in the desert to keep my post. And what happened when they made up these lies that we can't go into the land of Israel? People believed them. Everybody cried that night. It was the night of Tisha B'Av, by the way. They came back at the night of Tisha B'Av, the great fast that we had. That's one of the reasons why we fast. They brought this bad report, and they said people said we wish we would have died in the desert than going with the land of Israel. Why did God take us out of Egypt with this hatred? It would be better for us to be there eating, dried bread or whatever it is than going into the land of Israel. And actually, God made a decree, wanted to destroy them first, but again, because of the prayers of Moshe, what happened? He kept them alive, but they had to wander in the desert for 40 years. But one great lesson, people, whenever you do a project, well, it doesn't matter what it is, honestly, anything, even a family. You have a husband and wife and children. If I'm interested in my interests, it destroys the family, destroys the raising of the kids. But if somebody, we look beyond ourselves, what is the correct thing to do? So that brings definitely success in whatever project or whatever thing we are doing. Any questions on this? We'll go to the Kabbalistic point of view. I guess it's simple, right? Uh, in marriage works the same way too. I think we spoke about it a long time ago. If I get married, what can my wife give me? What do I get from you? That's probably the beginning of the deterioration of the marriage. I think I spoke about it at length last week or 2 weeks ago, what the concept of marriage is. That's one great lesson that we learned from the story of the spies. But honestly, according to this, these guys were like evil. They just cared about themselves. Very hard, to accept that people that saw God spoke to them, a year before by giving of the Ten Commandments. So because of this, actually Kabbalah explains it a lot more different. It says the spies were actually righteous people. The reason why they didn't want to go to the land of Israel, let's see what the difference is. Their lifestyle in the desert and their lifestyle once they entered the land of Israel. Could you tell me what the Jews do in the desert the whole day? The man came from heaven. They were protected by the clouds. Some weird stuff happened too. They said that the clouds actually polished or what is it called? Dry cleaned their clothing while they were wearing it. I knew you could have a car wash while you sit in your car, but you can't have laundry done to your clothes while you're inside your clothes. It's impossible. But actually, God did it. They were wearing their clothes, and the clouds actually dry cleaned it. Where did they get water from? It was the well of Miriam that actually traveled with them. So what did they do the whole day? Didn't they get bored? The food they had, the drinks they had, the clouds protected them. Their clothes grew with them. They got dry cleaning on their bodies. So what in the world did they do? So Kabbalah explains that actually the entire day they had a very spiritual life. They were studying Torah the entire time. That was in the desert. The moment they come into the land of Israel, would they have the man coming down for them? Not anymore. Would they have the well of Miriam traveling with them? Not anymore. If they wanted to have water, there was no plumbing. You got to go dig wells. If they want to have bread, they have to start planting. So you guys all know your parents have jobs. Let's even if it's the most religious person. If he has to work from 9 to 5, how many hours of the day does he have time to study? To study Torah, I'm talking about. Not too much. Correct. They're driving to work, driving back from work. You have families to take care of. And by the time after you work from 9 to 5, you're probably dead tired. If you could have an hour to learn, you're a lucky person. So these guys said in the desert, what's going on. We actually have a miraculous life, and we could dedicate our lives to spirituality. The moment we go into the land of Israel, forget it. We become actually, physical people. We're not going to be able to study Torah at all. That was the problem that they had. Actually, with this explanation, these guys get closer. We don't do anything bad. I want to get a neck cake. I'm just kidding. That was not true. So with this, actually, we understand a couple of interesting words in this week's parsha. When they complain that people die in land of Israel, it says Eretz Ochelet Yoshveha. It's a land. What does Ochelet mean? Eats. The land that consumes its people. I'm sorry, the land doesn't eat anybody. They meant people will die. But why did they use the language of Ochelet, eats or consumes its people? You see, when you eat something, that becomes you. The food that you eat becomes you, your flesh and blood. When they said the land eats its people, according to Kabbalah, it didn't mean that the people are dying in that land. It means the land is going to consume us, the land is going to eat us. That actually means that we're going to become very physical. Anything funny happening, guys? Let's concentrate and learn. All right. So honest, that's what it means. It's a land that we become bunch of physical people. We're not going to be spiritual anymore. That's what bothered them. Also, when they said God cannot save us from these people, they had a very, very deep logic. We asked, there's so many miracles that happen in the desert. How could they not believe that God could make miracles in Israel? Of course they believed it. But again, in the desert, they had a very supernatural life. The clouds were there, the moon was coming down, right? If you live above nature, miracles could happen. When they were going to the land of Israel, God was telling them, you're going to live according to laws of nature. No more miracles. No more moon coming down, no more water going, no more nothing. Everything's going to be natural. According to laws of nature, when you have two armies, who wins? The strong one or the weak one? The strong one. So I said, as long as we're in the desert, yeah, it was a miraculous life. We were above nature. We didn't have to do no planting, no plowing, nothing. When you live above nature, miracles could happen. But God is telling us, go to the land of Israel. No more miracles. If you're going to have a natural life, sorry, we can't win that war. Even God can't win. That's why they brought these reports. Actually, they were not like such wicked people. And that's why they refused to go to the land of Israel. But there was a couple of mistakes made. Number one, guys, that in these days we have seen many times wars do happen. But there are times that actually the weaker army wins too. Anybody studied, 1967 war, the 6 Day War? We were fighting against huge armies. At that time, honestly, people said Israel is going to be wiped from the map if you study it. 1948, against so many countries. Even the reporters, they said the 6 Day War was a miracle of God. There are times that God actually makes a miracle, but it's enclosed in laws of nature. It's a miracle, but you don't see it as a miracle. Like one of the biggest proofs they bring is from story of Purim. Story of Purim, everybody says, yeah, it was natural. We had a queen who was Jewish, and the king loved him. So when Haman came and said, I'm a Jew, listen, kill our enemy. But if you look at it, exactly the way it happens, you have the king going crazy, Achashverosh, gets drunk for 7 days. Then this retarded guy asks his wife to come dance. She refuses to come to dance. And what does he do? He kills his own wife. Is that normal? You tell me. It's not normal. And then after that, he misses his wife. So for 4 years, he's looking for a queen. Doesn't get married right away. 4 years. And every day he saw a different girl to see if he likes that girl or not. After 4 years, he finds Esther Hamalka. Esther becomes the queen. And after that, Haman comes out to be the guy that's a Jew hater. Do you call that freak accident of nature? It's definitely hand of God. But you don't see the miracle. It seems to be natural, but it's a miracle. So that was a mistake that the spies made. They thought the moment they go into the land of Israel, no miracles will happen. It's going to be all natural. So we're going to lose the war. There's no way that God could save us. That was mistake number one. Mistake number two is that who says that God wants them to study the whole day? They thought that's better. So actually, we're going to get into this discussion. What's the purpose of the creation of the world? You're going to find many answers about this, but we're going to do one of them actually in short. We really don't know why God created the world. You know why God created the world? For you. For you. But again, but why? Why did he create the world for us? Exactly for you too. You're an important person. But actually, Kabbalah says we really don't know why God wanted to create the world. For some reason, he had a desire that he wanted to create a very, very dark world. This is our world, very dark. It's like a dirty place, like a house. And people that take drugs are in there. It's awful place. But then God says, I want you to become my partners to make this world into a godly world. And I give you the directions. He gave us Torah and mitzvot. Every time you do a mitzvah, you take something physical, like a parchment skin of a cow, and you make it into tefillin, you put it on, it becomes a holy object. When you eat food, you make a bracha on that, you bring godliness on the food. The moment you buy a house, the first thing you do, you put up a mezuzah. So that house is not a house anymore. It becomes God's dwelling place. So God wanted to have a dwelling place in this world, in this physical world. And he says, I'm begging you, I want whatever. I ask you, I want you, any way you want to explain it, that you should become my partners to make this world a godly world. God could have done it himself. Make a world which is godly, we would all enjoy God. But all of us would be freeloaders. You get what I'm saying? You come to a perfect world and you just enjoy God. So God says, no, I don't want that. I want it to be my partners. And he gave us these rules which are Torah and mitzvot. That's why everything in Torah and mitzvot is actually with physical things. It's action. It's not just, whatever, have a good heart. That's important, but that's not the only thing. So the spies thought that the main thing is study of Torah. That's what I did the whole day in the desert. They had a miraculous life the whole day. They studied God, nothing else. To go in the land of Israel, that's a loss. We're going to become very physical people, working, making money. It's not good for us. So then here God was very upset because yes, we got to study Torah when we were younger because we take that Torah and we infuse the world with godliness. That's what the purpose is. That's exactly what you guys are. You think go to college because you want to make money? Is that why you go to college? To do what? To make money? You think God sent it in this world, your high place of godliness, to make money? You had a better life up there. Because God made you a partner. You get education, you do business, you become a doctor, and you sanctify God's name. Because they see you in business, you're very honest. They see as a doctor, you care about your patients. You're not there for the money. So they're going to ask, I forgot your first name. Ethan. Why is Ethan so different than all the other business people? Why is he so honest? Why is he closed on Shabbat? Why is he so caring with the customers? He doesn't cheat them. Or why is this doctor so caring? He's not like Dr. Fauci, right? I'm sorry, I'm getting into politics. You could see I'm not a Democrat, 100%, right? How come he's different? He doesn't lie. He cares about the patients. You know what? Because he's a Jew, because he studied the Torah. So like that, you bring godliness even in places that you have people that are not even Jewish, again, good people, but they're not connected to Torah as much. You sanctify God's name, you make that part of the world a dwelling place for God. That was a mistake of the spies. They believed in their perfection. My job is to study, get better and better. God said no. For that, you had perfection in heaven. You come in here to make the world a better world. Of course, you get the reward too. So that's a great lesson that we learn from these stories of the spies. That was one thing that we learned from here. I'm going to finish. If you have any questions, please, guys, do ask. So now you know why God created the world, Mr. Ita? Yeah. To make a dwelling place here. And you're a partner. So we have to clean all the drugs from this world. I'm talking about not just drugs, I mean spiritual drugs. All the dirt, all the garbage, all the bad things. So you clean up the house from all the drugs, and then you bring perfume, furniture, good smelling place. That's the godliness that you bring down. No more drugs. No more spiritual drugs. You get that? I mean, evil spiritual drugs. Seriously. And thank God, the way God created the world, from the physical world, we understand the spiritual world. That's it. That's the way it is. Any questions before we go to the next part? No? Okay, we're going to discuss something actually, which probably I've spoken about it before, but I think is very, very important. You see, the story of the spies is right after the story of Miriam. I think we spoke about it last week. Miriam was a sister of Moshe Rabbeinu, and she actually said a little bit of evil words about Moshe. Remember, guys, last week we learned Moshe Rabbeinu, when he turned 80 and he became a prophet, he decided to separate himself from his wife because he was talking to God 24/7. He can't have a marital life. So he was separate from his wife. And then because of that, his wife never put on any makeup. We learned this last week, I think. So then Miriam comes along and he says, hey, Tzipporah, Moshe's wife, why don't you put on makeup? Old ladies make themselves beautiful for their husbands. How come you're so different? Say, my husband doesn't care. He looks at my soul, doesn't look at my face, doesn't look at my body, whatever it is. So at that time, the truth was found that the reason why she doesn't put on makeup is because Moshe doesn't live with her anymore. They're separated or divorced. So Miriam says, oh my gosh, why did my brother Moshe do this? We are prophets too. We didn't say goodbye to our spouses. So it goes to Aaron, his other brother, her other brother, and he complains. So she gets, who does think Moshe is? He's not better than us. We're still prophets, and we deal with our families. The mistake that she made, Moshe Rabbeinu's prophecy, was a much higher level. Miriam didn't talk to God 24/7. But Moses, he had to go to God back and forth. If he's involved in physical pleasures, he can't receive God. He has to be totally holy. So for him, it was okay. Please, none of you guys become Moses. Get married, have kids, Leave that for the Pope to become the Moses. They never get married. I'm just kidding. It's only a joke. They're the wonderful people. But at any rate, don't become Moses. Just be yourself. They actually say that Rabbi Zusha was a guy that he one time said, I'm not worried when I go to heaven if God is going to ask me, how come you're not like Abraham? I said, because you didn't create me Abraham, you created me Zusha. What I'm afraid of is if God is going to tell me, Zusha, why weren't you Zusha? That means we all have our own potentials that we have to reach. So that's what God wants from us. Anyways, so that was the part that he said evil, but bad stuff about Moses, and she got sarat, that leprosy. Why do we learn about the spies after that? So Rashi says, because these spies saw what happened to Miriam. She became sick. She got leprosy. But they didn't learn their lesson. They said bad about land of Israel. They said bad about Moses when they came back. Doesn't know what he's talking about. Better for us to stay in the desert. That's a simple explanation. So they also gossiped or they said bad about, land of Israel specifically, and they didn't learn their lesson. And you see, this actually brought so much trouble. This is one of the reasons why we do cry and we mourn on Tisha B'Av. There are 5 reasons. One of them is because they brought a bad report and there was death on them, the whole generation in desert. Other reasons are the destruction of the temple twice that it happened. But one thing, why is Lashon Hara so bad? Even though I spoke about it once before, but I think honestly it's good to talk about it. Why is God like so upset when we gossip and say something bad about somebody else? All right, so I just spoke, big deal. Talk is cheap. But the truth is, talk is not cheap. We may talk very cheap. Speaking is very, very important. You could say one good word and you change somebody's life completely. You could say one bad word and that's it. The guy falls into depression for the rest of his life. Really, really possible. But anyways, why is Lashon Hara so bad? I'm going to go over it one more time. In 5 minutes, we'll finish. Actually, I think we did discuss it before that the gossiping is something that the Chafetz Chaim writes down. The reason why Jews suffer in exile, the main reason is because there is gossiping between us, not because of any other sins. Even though keeping Shabbat is important, it's not because of that. Even though intermarriage is a very bad thing, but that's not the main reason why we're suffering in exile. It's because we gossip about each other. And he brings a proof from the Gemara. The Gemara says in times of the second temple, all Jews were religious. During the first temple, there is idolatry, adultery. We spoke about it a few times before also. It was last week. But nevertheless, after 7 years they went to exile, they came back, they built the second temple. But during the second temple, before it got destroyed, it says they gossiped, they slandered behind each other's back. And we were in exile for over 1900 years. So the Gemara says that teaches us gossiping is worse than adultery. Please. Don't say I'm going to do adultery, I won't speak Lashon Hara. They're both bad. They're both evil. But Lashon Hara is even worse. So, and also, that was one of the proofs that Chafetz Chaim brings. Why is it really worse than any other sin? So we spoke about it a couple of times. This world is a democracy, right? At least it's supposed to be. The way God judges us is also in a democratic way. When somebody does a sin between himself and God, no punishment until the Satan is going to come on Rosh Hashanah and is going to bring all the sins that we did. And then all the good deeds that we did, the angels come and they testify. So then you have godly tribunal deciding based on our actions, a good year or not a good year, God forbid. Correct? So now if Jews don't gossip, they don't accuse each other verbally, or I don't want to listen to somebody accusing another Jewish person. So then God says, hey, the Jews didn't accuse each other. So when the Satan comes to accuse the Jews, God says, I don't want to listen because Jews don't accuse each other. So you have no permission to accuse them. So basically, come to this Chafetz Chaim, somebody could, even if he commits all the sins between himself and God, not that we should do it, God forbid, but if he does that, no punishment. As long as he does not accuse verbally, doesn't slander behind somebody's back, or he's not interested to listen to somebody's, Lashon Hara. But the moment we actually do accuse each other, so then the power of the Satan is completely unleashed, so to speak. And he could say all the evil that he wants about the Jewish people. That's what this is worse than any other sin. The other reason that he brings down is because whenever there's trouble, people, when Jews pray, God actually listens to their prayers and trouble goes away. But that's as long as our power of speech is not contaminated. If somebody says bad words, I was talking high school, the F word should be fabulous, fantastic. Those should be the words. The B word has to be blessing. The SH word is Shabbat Shalom. None of those bad words at all. I did that once in high school. So the guy said, two girls were Rabbi Shabbat Shalom. That's it. Honestly, these are the words. That's the word. There's no SH word. Doesn't exist. What else is there besides fantastic and fabulous? I said phenomenal, but that's because I'm from yeshiva. They said phenomenal is PH, it's not F.
Fun.
Fun?
Fun.
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 No.
Fun.
Fun. There's another word, I don't remember.
Onions.
No, there's a good word. Fantastic, fabulous, whatever. So when we say ugly words, bad words, or when we speak Lashon Hara actually, so that contaminates the power of speech. So when we pray or we study Torah, it doesn't even go to heaven. Those impure powers that our words created, they grab it. So the prayers have no effect. That's one of the problems that I have. When somebody wants to become a chazan to lead the prayer, they always ask, does he keep Shabbat? Why don't we ask, does he speak Lashon Hara or not? That's even worse than not keeping Shabbat. I don't know. I have a question, but honestly, I don't have any answer. Somebody gossips is worse than not keeping Shabbat. So I don't have the answer to that. But again, we don't find answers to everything. So that's the second reason why Lashon Hara is the worse than any other sin, because it contaminates the power of speech, which a human being has to pray to God. And reason number three why it's the worst, they say because every other sin you don't commit it that much. If somebody doesn't keep Shabbat yet, it's once a week. If somebody doesn't keep kosher, most of the food here are kosher anyways, any tuna can is almost kosher, all the breads are almost kosher, all the dairies are almost kosher. If somebody just keeps away from seafood, and meat, everything is basically kosher. Even if somebody doesn't keep kosher, twice a day maybe it's non-kosher food, maybe 3 times a day. But when it comes to on Yom Kippur is once a year. When it comes to Lashon Hara, sometimes we talk evil about somebody 15 to 20 times a day. Honestly, you don't believe me? Open up the news. Every news that they say is bad about somebody, almost. So, by the way, if you talk about things that everybody knows, it's not Lashon Hara. So when I spoke about Dr. Fauci, that wasn't Lashon Hara. Everybody knows about it. I didn't say anything because everybody knows, seriously. Unless my intention is to make him look worse. But I didn't say anything. All the bad you guys know already about him. The news said it. But so these are the 3 reasons we got to actually keep our mouths kept properly. And I think that I'm going to finish, guys. If you say good about other people, when we go up there after 120 years, only good things will be said about us. If I'm judgmental and always say bad things about other people, then my judgment is going to be a lot harsher too. Thank you guys for listening.